delighted to be here. A lot to cover, but we would like to make it meaningful. So I'm going to invite my wife to join me, because otherwise I'll fall asleep. And she might fall asleep with me. So I would like to have her to join me to talk about one topic. And then hopefully the syllabus will come, and then we will do some color codes, personality test. Since we have many young people out here, we're going to try to squeeze in one session that might be very beneficial to our young people who are here. Okay? Let's see. This morning we talked about how we are made differently, how men and women are created differently, and our difference is part of God's design, right? And then we talked about this morning how our brain is wired differently, right? How many of you were here this morning? Okay, and if you're new here, we don't have time to go back and explain it, but we talked about how our brain is wired differently in a way that man is made to connect while woman is made to, man is made to separate, woman is made to connect. And then women are more process-oriented while men are more goal-oriented and so forth. And then this afternoon, continuation of what we have left up this morning is that not only our brain is wired differently, there's something else that are different about men and women.
So right now we're going to be talking about different languages of love. And I want you to imagine all of us wearing oxygen masks. Okay, so we put on this mask, and men put on their mask. Except our oxygen tank is different. How we feel loved is different from how men feel loved. So this is going to be actually, for us, this really changed the dynamic of our relationship. And so I think when you understand and practice, it will change the energy of your marriage into a very dynamic marriage.
And before, we talk about marriage, if you're not married yet, or if you're not married and single, and I hope that you find this message to be practical for you too, because it doesn't only apply to married couples in terms of love language. It also applies to couples. It also applies to parents and child. Mom and daughter, and mother, father, and the son. I guess we're stuck here this afternoon, and that's a good thing. Okay, and so you can apply this principle into your relationship as a mother to your son, and then your relationship as a father to your daughter, and vice versa. Okay, and so on. So let's keep that in mind. The Bible talks about how man's love language is all about. It's found in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 33, and then 1 Peter 3:1, and then Ephesians 5:22. Raindrop is trying to compete with me as well. Okay, so I'm going to ask my wife to read those passages.
Maybe we should pray. Wow. Really.
Let's start with first.
Father God, we are gathered here in the safe haven of your sanctuary. As it is pouring down, Father, we remember your promise that you will rain down your Holy Spirit says, wives must respect her husband. This is 1 Peter 3:1. Wives, in the same way, be submissive to your husband, so that if any of them do not believe the word, they may be won over without words by the behavior of their wives, when they see the purity and the reverence of your lives. This 1 Peter talks about even if you marry a non-Christian, when a woman respects her husband, even the husband can be won over to recognize that she, God-fearing woman, can witness to her husband. Ephesians 5:22, wives, submit to your husband as to the Lord.
And so one common language word that comes up again and again and again in terms of how women are called to relate to her man is the word respect. And so 2,000 years ago, Paul knew the heart of man. Paul knew how to get to the heart of man. It is through the language of respect. And what's interesting is that original Greek word for respect in Greek is phobeo. And then she will tell us what's the meaning of this word, phobeo.
Phobeo is an exclamation point. Like when you go to Grand Canyon or when you see amazing creation of God, you have no vocabulary but to go, wow! So imagine the man being the creation of God and you go, wow! You're an amazing creation of God.
How does that sound practical? I've asked one lady after the session on respect, she was walking out and then she would look at me and say, okay, today, Pastor, I learned the importance of having to respect my husband, okay? I get it. And then she goes, how long do I need to do this? And so I said, well, until Jesus comes. Oh, that's too long, Pastor. And then she comes next time and then tell me this whole idea of phobeo is really not practical. She said she was trying to phobeo her husband. Wow, her husband. And then she ended up saying this in Korean. I'll say in Korean. Instead of saying wow, she was trying to say wow, but she couldn't do it. And then she ended up going egege. And so egege is the opposite word of like wow, right? And then I said, it's a biblical command. You need to say wow to your husband, no matter what. And then she goes, Pastor, that is so not practical. And if you live with my husband for 24 hours, you know what I'm talking about. So, how do we phobeo, our husband? Well, you phobeo your husband, and as you do it to the Lord. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But regardless, man's language of love is respect. They talk about, two groups of people. They talk about giving man choices between the two. Do you know what are those choices? Those choices are all bad. But one choice is that men are not, men are powerless. Men are not powerful enough, and so they become disrespected. Okay, that's one choice. And then the other choice being that men are unloved, therefore they become lonely. Okay? So if men are given with, choosing one over the other, what would man choose? I want man to choose. Whether you would be powerless, so you become, disrespected, or you become unloved, and then you end up being, lonely. What would you choose? Would you rather be lonely, or would you rather be disrespected? Of course, you have to choose one or the other, okay? Yeah, and I know both of them are pretty bad, okay? So would you rather be lonely, okay, because you're powerless, or would you rather be disrespected? What would you choose? Rather be lonely than to be respected? Disrespected? 75% of men 75% of men says that they'd rather be lonely than to be disrespected. And then, get this, 75% of Christian men, we're talking about Christian household, 75% of Christian men said that they are not respected at home. So respect is a big issue here, okay? And respect is man's love language, whether we like it or not, okay? How practical this respect, issue of respect is possible. You know, how possible this respect is. And one time, you know, I asked my wife, hey, it looks like, you know, you being able to respect me now, and then maybe it has become easier for you. Man, that was a wrong question to ask. The answer I got from her just blew my mind away. So I will have her to do some confession here when it comes to respect.
I know that in the Asian culture especially, respect is a big thing. And you respect your elders, and then we are taught to respect our men. But being grew up in the States, where you learn and you become educated, and what the world says is that people have to earn respect. You cannot give them respect. Okay, people have to earn it. They have to receive. They have to prove themselves. So this is the kind of culture that I grew up. So even after I got married, it was not easy for me to respect my husband. Actually, that scripture really bothered me. And you know, the submit and respect your husband. That was really hard. So one day when my husband asked me, hey Jewel, it looks like you're really respecting me really well. Like, you know, how are you doing this? At that moment, I was like, oh my goodness. I need to tell him the truth. And my answer was...
So truth is gonna hurt, okay?
So I said to my husband, I said, honey, it's a battle of good and evil every minute.
Can you believe? Can you believe? She said that it is a great controversy between good and evil every minute of the way. To respect you is a great controversy between good and evil every minute of the day, you know? And so then I knew that being able to respect for her husband, for her husband, as her husband, you know, it is not a natural thing, okay? And then Bible never commands us to do anything that are easy. Do you notice that? Bible never commands us to do things that we are doing anyway. You know? Bible never say hate each other. No. You know? Bible never say that, you know, forsake people. God, Bible never say those things that we're doing naturally as a sinful human being. But Bible gives us the things that are almost impossible for us. So I came to realize that for a woman to respect her husband is not an easy thing. It is a very difficult thing. It is actually an impossible possibility. Then how then can a woman come to a place of respecting her husband? It starts from the home, where a girl learns to respect her father, and the mother respects her husband, and then vice versa. And the son gets respected, and so forth. It starts from the home. But before we get to that, I want us to talk about, okay, how practical this is. How it is possible for a woman to come to a place of respecting her husband. The Bible gives us very clear direction. So who will teach us?
Well, as I was confessing how I was struggling with this, one morning in the devotion, I was reading the scripture over and over, how you're supposed to submit yourself to your husband as to the Lord. And I read it many times. But one day, this morning, it's like the Holy Spirit spoke to me. And you know what caught me was that respect your husband as who? As to the Lord. I don't know why that never caught my attention. But this morning, it caught my attention because it says, respect your husband as to the Lord. And I said, God, what are you saying? Are you saying that if I love as I am doing it to you? I never saw it that way. So when it really said, as to the Lord, I go, okay, so you're saying that if I love you, when I respect my husband, I'm doing it to you? Okay, Lord, I want to do that, okay? I want to show that I love you by respecting my husband. So from that was a turning point in my mentality of respecting, not to give, but something that I'm going to do it to the Lord. So that was an awakening moment. But it was still hard. It was still hard.
So when it comes to respect, she would see God in front of me, or before me, or behind of me. She would see the Lord, and then she would do it unto the Lord. But I want to point out one more thing, though, which is really important. I think this is what makes me excited about the gospel of Jesus Christ. This really makes me excited about God. It's because when you do things, when you do things to the Lord, you're doing it to each other. Well, let me say it again. You love God by loving the creation of God. You know what I mean? As you do it unto the Lord, you're doing it to each other. In other words, what you do in your relationship with God translate into how you relate to each other, and then how you relate to each other end up becoming an issue of how you relate to God. It's a circular experience. In other words, the more you love God, the more you respect each other, the more you respect your husband, the more you'll be able to love God as well. You know what I mean? So our relationship with God and our relationship with each other coming together in Jesus Christ. It is not a two separate thing. It's not possible for us to love God and yet hate my husband. You know what I'm saying? If you love God, you'll be able to love your husband by way of respecting your husband. That's why 1 Peter 3:1 said that, if you love God, you would respect your husband. And that there was a time when this one lady had a hard time respecting her husband because her husband was an alcoholic. And then she realizes that she feels like there's nothing she can respect her husband for. Okay? And then she came to realize that I need to find reasons for respecting my husband. And then she began to ask the Lord about it. And then this is what the Lord taught her. A couple of things. Number one, respecting your husband is not something that you do because he deserves it. It's not something that you do because he earned it. It's not something that you do because, he earned it. It is something that you do because of what God has done in your life. You extend that being graced by God. Since you're graced by God, you're able to grace your husband by respecting him. As much as God has gifted you to be saved, gifted you to be born, gifted you to be called to be His children, therefore we'll be able to love, respect our husband the way we need to. It is need-based, not conditional, gift-based, not merit-based. It's not something they earn it, but you give it to them as you receive it from the Lord. You see? So the turning point in your relationship comes as my wife and I experience God's grace in our lives and be able to share that grace to our spouse in a way that they needed it, not because they deserve it, but because they need it, and that you are willing to give it to them even when, are you ready for this? Even when you do not receive it, you are able to give it to them what they need, and that's what the freedom in the Lord is all about. When I'm able to give what she needs, even when she doesn't respect me, even when I do not give her the love that she needs, she's able to respect me because God has given her grace and she is extending that grace to me as a gift. Amen? Amen. So the turning point came not in how you're affected by how you're being treated by your spouse, but being affected by how God is treating you in Christ. And you allow that to be a base for giving love in freedom, not in obligation, not as a duty, but as a privilege, as a joyful devotion to God Himself. Amen? Amen. So this is so important. That's why my wife and I, we began to have a turning point in our relationship. Not because of the way we treat each other better, but because when I am responding to God's grace in my life and willing to extend that grace to her, vice versa, we begin to experience tremendous transformation in our relationship. Amen? Amen.
So this is something you have to receive from God to give. Because in my sinful nature, I'm very conditional. There are times that I not feel like respecting Him. Or my sinful nature takes over and my habit just takes over. Very easy to do. So it is in that moment when the Spirit really resides in my heart. And I see Him as a child of God. And I really cherish and find Him to be so precious. And treat Him the way that God would like to be treated. That we do this as a gift. Not because I can do it, I confess right now, I can't do it. I don't have it. I don't have it in me. It's only when I receive it from God that I can give it to my husband, the respect that he needs. Because as a man, that's the oxygen mask he breathes. Respect. That's what empowers man at home and in the society. That's what makes him feel like I can go out in the world and conquer and do anything and everything when he is respected.
Let's talk about, on that note, let's talk about what happens when men are respected. She already alluded to it. When men are respected, they feel like they're on the top of the world. When your wife tells you you're number one, you feel like you're on top of the world. When your wife tells you you're like this, then you feel like, actually a lot of men says that they feel like killing themselves. They feel like dying. Man dies within when a man are disrespected. We're going to talk about that. But when men are respected, they feel like they're being on the top of the world. They feel confident, capable, and get this. A lot of women says that by respecting my husband, by respecting my man, what do I get in return? Women are very calculated sometimes. What do we get in return by respecting my husband? Hey, look at this. Men are willing to die for the honor. In other words, when my wife respects me, for someone who provides me with honor and respect, man is simple enough. Look at their brain is wired. You remember this morning? Men are simple enough to die for someone who is willing to give us the honor and respect. That's why American soldiers are willing to go to Iraq, willing to die for what? For the honor. There was a famous football player in the United States who would make millions and billions of dollars. And he gave up his football profession to go to Iraq and willing to die for the honor. That's why when men are respected, women are able to receive the kind of love that are willing to die for them. So it's a real great deal. Okay? It's a really, really great deal. Okay? And then when you obey God's word, you remember talking about this woman whose husband is not Christian, whose husband is an alcoholic. She came to respect her man. And for her, being able to respect her man is to be thankful for her. And so, as she learned to respect her man out of her reverence to God, she became very thankful. And then when she became thankful, She came to realize that first time in her life, she began to count the blessings of God. Well, as an alcoholic's wife, what kind of blessing she would have. You know, God led her to realize that, wow, I am so blessed. Because my husband, even though he's an alcoholic, he can be drunk to death. And yet, still, he can find the way home. Praise God. You know what I mean? And not only that, he came to realize that she came to realize that here's a man who is willing to let her go to church, who does not get in the way, who give her the money to, give an offering to the church. So she became very thankful. And so whenever he would get drunk, come home, and this lady would bring a choice soup and food that will calm his spirit down, that will help him to recover from the drunken state. And then after that, guess what? She used to be so grumpy, so disrespectful, and all that. And then now, he saw that her attitude toward him is changing. So guess what she did? Guess what he did? He said, hey honey, your attitude toward me is really changed. How come you never asked me to go to your church with you? And she goes, I never thought that you would want to. Well, how would you know if you never asked? If you ask me, I'll go to church. So she asked, can you, for me to go to church with you means everything. And then he goes, if your God can change your heart like that, I want to go to your church and be changed. And so they came to church. Amen? Yeah. So if you follow the word of God, God will bless you in a way that you cannot possibly imagine. Can you tell us a little bit about how a mother can respect a son and what he does to them?
It came to a moment when my son Michael was in his high school period that I realized that as a mom, I cannot nag or talk down to him because he's growing up to be a man. And so at that point, I made a conscious decision to try to talk to him and respectfully. And then if there were certain things that it was really bothering me, I asked my husband to talk to him. And for me, I give him choices or instead of telling him what to do, I say, what would you like to do? This or that? Like they said, even if you eat ramyun, do you want to eat shin ramyun or ichiban? Giving them choices instead of telling them what to do. So even if you have a son, even if they're little, show them that everybody needs to be respected. Every child is precious. Every person needs to be respected. So I think right now, if we could have a conversation, if you have a husband, ask them, what would make you feel respected? Or even if single men, I would like to ask them, what would make you feel respected? If we could just take 1 minute right now to have a conversation.
Well, before we do that, let's first of all to say wow to our men. Okay, let's all do that first. Okay, let's all to say, don't get egg, okay? Don't do that, okay? Don't get egg is a satanic thing, okay? Okay, so look at your husband or look at the man, okay, next to you, and they go, wow, the creation of God, okay?
Even if they're not yours. Let's right now give them a wow that they deserve.
Somebody said, wow, go away. There's a thief coming in here. Yeah, really. So it's really about we're going to talk more in length, but it's really about honoring our men here, How many men would love to come to a place like this? We have a lot of Christian men here. I want to take a moment to honor Christian men here. How many Christian men would love, How many men would love to come to a seminar like this? Not many men. Not that I know of for Korean men. When I go to a meeting, a lot of the times a woman comes, dragging their husbands, or husband never come and then wife comes and then they take all the notes for their husband. And so we have so many men here serving the Lord, serving home. I'm sure they're the one help you to bring the dishes to church, all the potluck dishes to church. I know all the potluck dishes are delivered by men, right? At least in South, right? Okay.
So let's have
all the men stand. All the men stand, please. Okay, all the men. All the young men stand. Okay? Yeah. Let's give them high amen. Okay?
Thank you, even the gentlemen working hard for our speaker and everything. Thank you so much.
Let's tell our men. All the ladies can stand up. Okay, stand up. Go around. The men standing up, remaining standing. All the ladies go around and tell the men that, you know what? We honor you. Yeah, go around and do that.
Please. Yeah, let's do that.
Don't be shy about it. Asians are funny. Asians are really funny. I'm speaking like Koreans are really funny too. Koreans are hilarious. Asians are hilarious. Because I know that you guys are hilarious when it comes to international airport. You go to the international airport and people are coming out of the gate, right? And then I notice Korean and Asians are there, and whenever their loved ones are coming far away, they're like, right? They go crazy. Until they get really close and then they get frozen. You know what I mean? These Arab people, these Europeans and South Americans, they hug and they kiss 3 times, 4 times, crazy, right? And then these Koreans, as soon as they get really close to proximity where you can shake hands, they just shake hands like this. And then everyone looking at the gate and they march out like army, goes out like this. It's funny. But as soon as they are far away, they become very freer like this. You know what I mean? And so we're very kind of shy people. But I think our commitment is deep, right? Our commitment is deep. But then if we can learn to express our emotion and our gratitude to each other in a way that's meaningful, even on Sabbath, you meet somebody, you meet an elder and deacon, you meet young men in the church, we take time to honor them. I want to tell you that you could be somewhere else today. You could be somewhere else, trying to find your girlfriend or whatnot, But you chose to come to this church and serve this church. We honor you today. Man, how does it make you feel?
Feel good.
Feel good. He's like blossoming right now. He's blossoming. You see, all the young men are here. It's like these men could be out there making money playing piano, right? But they chose to come here and serve the church. It's like leading songs and all that. All of these men. We honor them. A lot of times instead of honoring them, we put them down. We look them down. And we think that they're no good and whatnot. And that's not even the samurai spirit. Even the samurais, they honor their boys. And samurai mothers honor their boys. If the son comes to the mother and asks the mother, "Mom, what should I do?" You're a samurai boy. You're supposed to know. You see, even from those people, we have lessons to learn. That's why the Bible says men are made to be honored, to be honored. And and men are made to be respected. And that's the food for them. That's the oxygen mask that my wife is telling us. What happened when man is not respected? This is a very important thing. What happened when man doesn't get the respect they need? What did somebody say? Huh? Huh? Feels like dying? Okay, don't die yet. Don't die yet. Okay? You need to learn this before you die, okay? First of all, when man doesn't get the respect he needs, he becomes angry. Man gets angry. And then when man gets angry, they become abusive. Of course, there is no excuse for abuse, right? You cannot make an excuse for abuse. So abuse is not accepted. It's not tolerated. However, when man gets angry, they become abusive. They feel like doing something. They become very physical in that way, even though you cannot make an excuse for it. And then, I don't know about here, but in America, when you put hands on your wife, you go to jail, right? And so men realize that, oh wow, I might go to jail if I do this, continue with this. So man becomes very threatened by their own anger, and then they retrieve themselves into the cave. You see, men become quiet. Okay? So I want to tell you something today. When woman gets quiet, it is usually the case where women are so satisfied and they become quiet. But when man gets satisfied, they end up talking a lot. I know about my father. Whenever my father comes home, my mother would give us the weather forecast of the day. Whenever my father comes home, my mother says, today's sunshine. And then sometimes she goes, today's a thunderstorm. Typhoon is coming. And then today is dark cloud. Watch out. You know what I mean? And so when my father is happy, he would talk a lot. I remember. Like we would be sitting eating, Korean simple soup, and then my father would go like, wow, this tastes really good. And every, spoon goes in there, the soup goes away just like that. It's eaten up like that. And so when man is happy, they talk. But when a woman is unhappy, they talk more. Right? But then when they're happy, they become like, that's why, Psalm, the proverb says that when the woman is quiet at home, then it's a sign of happy home or whatever, But when men are quiet, it is not such a good sign. Because he may feel lesser than men. He may feel disrespected to come to that place. So when man doesn't get the respect, and then when man retrieve into his own cave, man becomes non-responsive. Man becomes inexpressive. You know what I'm talking about? Have you ever seen an angry boy? I've seen an angry boy. Okay, who would come to potluck? Most exciting time on Sabbath for the boy is what? Potluck time, right? They would be there first, and they would try to gather all the food, before anybody eat, right? And that's why we have to hold hands and pray, so that no one can eat, right? But anyway, and then this boy would be ahead of me, and he was like, not excited about potluck. He would only gather 2, 3, side dishes. So I asked him, hey, what's going on? And he said, I have no appetite. And then I found out that his parents got divorced. And then he was really being touched by that, being hurt by that. And so when man gets hurt, man becomes very non-expressive. So I want to talk to the boys here, and boys who are becoming men, young men to be. If you find yourself not talking to your family, when you come home, that's a place you retrieve your own cave. It can be your own room, right? When man goes into their own cave, they don't even come out. until they get hungry or sleepy, right? Those are the times they come. If you find yourself being so non-active, being passive in a home, that is not a good sign. Okay? We need to really pay attention to the inexpressiveness of man. Yeah, when the voice is respected, they have lack of motivation, and they have lack of identity of who they are. If you do not know who you are and then your identity, what happens is you do not even know what you want, what you need, you know. And so these kind of kids, you know, when they go to a restaurant, they have a hard time deciding on anything. You know, they go to the mall, they don't know what to buy and what not. You know, you become very unable. You become unable to decide on anything because you grew up with invalidation. I want to tell you one more thing. When a man growing up being validated by a mother, then he will know how to choose a healthy woman who will respect you. If you grew up not being respected, you end up either marrying somebody who would, you know, put you down and who will invalidate you and whatnot, or you'll be in a relationship that becomes very unhealthy. So it is very, very important for a son to grow up in a place where you get validated. Same thing is true for a girl. You know, if you have a daughter, father's relationship to a daughter up to the age of 7 is so important. If something happened during those times for the father, then it becomes very detrimental. I've seen many cases where father died, you know, when the girl is growing up to 7, then it can be very traumatic for the daughter. But for a daughter to be validated by a father by saying that you're beautiful and all that, then it helps them to really go through teenage years, you know, without having to wonder and trying to find their validation by dating a guy or sleeping with a guy, you know, anything like that. You see, for a daughter to grow up to be validated is to prevent them from being sexually active during the teenage years. 75% of the girls experience, you know, protection from all these things when they are validated. Okay, let's talk about the examples of disrespect. I'm going to have my wife to read them through, and I want you to really feel for David, King David.
This is King David when he was jumping for joy when the Ark of Covenant came back. When she saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, she despised him in her heart. And this is, you remember Saul's daughter? Saul's daughter, when she saw David leaping for joy, somehow she despised him in her heart. Somehow, the relationship right here, it tells a lot in the relationship that there was no respect in their relationship. And after this, if you read, this totally changed their relationship. It's like he never had a relationship with her ever since then.
Yeah, and then the Proverbs chapter 19 verse 14 tells us, houses and wealth are inherited from parents, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. So what woman can do to either empower man or destroy man, it really is in the hands of a woman in many ways, if you look at the dynamics in this way. And that's why the Bible says, husband, okay, now, before I move on to woman's love language, I want to talk about my own experience with my wife. You know, my wife respects me by praying for me. Yeah, she's a prayer warrior. You know, even when I preach a sermon, she would be praying. She would be praying. Even when I'm away preaching somewhere else, she would be praying for me. A lot of times she would time it so that she could pray for me. I really, really appreciate that. And she learns that from her mother, who also prayed. And I came from a family where my mother prayed for me. My mother prayed so much Then in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, I found her praying. It's right in front of my bed. Because I heard someone murmuring, so I got up. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. I saw my mom praying for me, kneeling down, beside my bed. She was praying for me. So I carefully listened to her prayer, and her prayer was something like this: God, I am allowing this son to be given to you as your servant. And then she goes, make him a pastor, make him a servant of yours, and do as you please. When my mother gave God a permission to use me whatever the way he wanted to use, man, I felt like my life was doomed. And then, sure enough, God answered my prayer. My mother died 20-some years ago, and yet God answered my mom's prayer. And then I became a pastor. Did you know that when you pray, the person who offered prayer may die, but the prayer offered never dies until it accomplishes its purpose. Amen? Amen. And so that's what happened to me. So I grew up in a family mother prayer. So I can never look down upon my wife because she's praying for me. I have no idea what she's going to talk about with God, about me, right? And so I appreciate that. And then one day, I was walking out because I got out of the house because it was 4 o'clock in the morning. I had to go to East Coast. I had to get up so early to go to East Coast. I got up, I changed my self outside of the room, and then I packed my stuff, and then I got out of the house. And then the way our house was situated back then was in Glendale Canyon area, and everything makes noise, especially early in the morning. And when I go out, it would make that clicking sound. And then I went out and to start the car, I would go up and come down because it's kind of dangerous area to go down right away. So I would go up and I was coming down, and guess what? It was 4 o'clock in the morning. My wife came out with her pajama. 4 o'clock in the morning. She heard that clicking sound. She came out, and as I was going down, I knew that she was going to tell me something. So I rolled down the window as I was going down, and then she was exclaiming loud. She said, "Honey, I'll be praying for you." When I heard that 4 o'clock in the morning, I forgot that I was not driving a sports car. And so I found myself accelerating like crazy. You see? That's what happened. Well, it gets dangerous. That's what happened when men get the respect that they need. Because that's what's going to really feed them in a powerful way. Okay? And let's talk a little bit about what woman's love language is, and then let's make it practical.
Okay, so men's love language, their oxygen take is respect. For us, our oxygen take mask is agapao. Husband, agapao your wife. Ephesians 5:25, and it says, agapao your wife as your body, and agapao your wife as yourself, and agapao your wife, and do not aggravate her. Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Reuben, for she said, "It is because the Lord has seen my misery. Surely my husband will love me now." Anything to be loved. Leah wanted to buy her husband's love. So what opens our heart, our oxygen mask, is affection. And the affection we're talking about here is a non-sexual affection. It is a tender, compassionate, kind, thoughtful affection that is self-sacrificing, that is self-denying love. So agapao simply means, this is what Ellen White defines. According to Ellen White, agapao is two things. Number one is a self-denying, self-sacrificing, self-renouncing love. Yeah, sounds like a very reluctant thing, right? I'm going to explain it further. And also she said, agapao, that pure love in its purest form is
what's gonna give life, if you understand what I'm talking about. Okay? So that agapao, the agape love, which is manifested on the cross, is the principle of life. Wow, it's amazing. So self-giving love, when you give yourself to others, when you give yourself to the spouse, when you give your heart to your spouse in a way that you treasure her more than you treasure yourself, that's what's gonna give life to a marriage, life to a relationship. Okay? Well, it is a pure love in its purest form. You know? How possible this pure love is. I thought I married my wife for love, and I thought that my love for her was pure. Until my wife became ill. When my wife became ill, I thought she was going to get better in a couple of weeks. But she didn't. She got sicker and sicker and sicker. And then she was turning 41, 42. I was phobia. I became very fearful about the possibility of reliving my father's life, because my mom died when she was 41, and she was getting sick at the age of 41. So I was like, man, this is spooky. I don't want this to happen, and I don't want her to die, you know. And so I did everything, and I ended up quitting ministry because I wanted to minister to her. Because the more I do church, the more I go to church, you know, the more it became a burden for her, and she was suffocated. And so one day on Sunday morning, God just hit me really hard. What are you doing here? You got to save your wife first. That's your first ministry. My eyeball almost came out, you know. God hit me really hard, so I have to put it in the bag. and then I said, okay, I'm gonna quit ministry to support her. So I quit ministry. Oh boy, I tell you. After I quit ministry, I was trying to cook for my wife because she couldn't do anything. She was just totally exhausted. So I was trying to cook, and then trying to clean. And as soon as I cleaned the dishes after breakfast, lunchtime already come around. I almost wanted to skip lunch. Let's have a fasting for a couple of days, you know. But then it kept coming with just never-ending chores. And then she was sick more than a year or so. And then I came to realize that, you know what? While she needs the pure love from me, I came to realize that I didn't have that pure love for her. And then women are amazing. They can detect if your love is pure or not, or if there's any speck of impurity there. Women are able to detect that. Women are amazing. You cannot lie to women, you know, especially to my wife, right? I have to call her inspector. But anyway, and so she was asking me, honey, bring me a water. Can you bring me a water? So as I was bringing a water and giving it to her, I found myself doing instead of giving it to her kindly and gently, I just and then before she drank it, she was telling me, honey, you want me to die, right? Of course, I didn't want her to die, but I had this little bit of irritation. How long am I going to sit? Remain sick. But I tell you, I am one of the pastors in the U.S. who's done more weddings than anybody else. I've done more than 100 weddings. You know, so many weddings in my life. You know. But whenever I conduct the wedding ceremony, it just dawned on me that people are getting into marriage without knowing anything. Why? Because I asked them for the vows, right? Can we have one man and one woman come out today? Why don't you come out? And then just for the fun of it, one lady come out. Would you come out? Just for fun. This is not real marriage, okay? Yeah. Just look at me. Yeah. Okay. And then I will say, your name is Ping, and then Susan. Ping. Will you love Susan? Will you choose Susan to be your wedding wife? Before I even finished the sentence, he said, I do already. So what he's saying is that he's telling me just finish up. I want to go to the honeymoon right away. You see, so a lot of men like, will you love her and cherish her in sickness? Listen to me very carefully. In sickness and in what? Yeah, I go again. In sickness and in health, in adversity as well as in prosperity, will you forsake all others, keeping yourself up? He already said, I do. You know? You know what I mean? And so I was like that. I had no idea. When my father asked me, he was my presiding pastor, when he was asking, I said, I do, and then I added in my heart, I can do more than that. Because I'm a good man. You know what I mean? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, it was until my wife got sick, and she was sick more than a couple of years, and then it made me realize, in sickness as well as in health, in adversity as well as in prosperity, was not an easy matter. That's why for a man, when you get married, you better know what you're getting into, because otherwise it will be a funeral day forever. That's why man wears a black tuxedo. It's a funeral day for them. Just kidding, okay? You know, women wear a white dress because they're victorious, you know? And I tell you, until I came to die to self, I'm not able to work. I'm not. I need to be crucified on the cross, die every day, every moment. Because every night I go to my bed, and then, you know, I told you, as soon as I lie down, what happens? So I need to stay up for my bride to come in as if Jesus was coming. And this Jesus is not coming very fast. It takes about 30 minutes for her to come in, and she has to do this and all that. I said, oh no, you have a lot of chastisement to do. And then she came, and, you know, I had to stay up. I had to bear the cross to stay up. You know, one day my daughter came in. It was right after I came from a long trip. I was ready to pass out. And that's when the real test comes. My daughter comes in. Dad, I really need to talk to you. But my eyes was coming down like this. So I was telling my daughter, Dad, daughter, can we talk tomorrow? And then she goes, she's funny. Dad, tomorrow may not come. She said, we have to talk tonight. And then I remember the scripture. It said, Hebrew, I think somewhere in Hebrew, it says, you never shed your blood. You never love someone, even to a point of shedding your blood. And I said, if I stay up to spend time with my daughter, it's not going to kill me, right? So I was ready to be crucified. And I was even to love. So I went outside, sitting down with my daughter, looking at the moon, you know. We were sitting down, looking at each other, and my eyelid was coming down, my lashes and my eyelid and everything were coming down. And I said, Lord, please work against the gravity. And that night, I was able to talk to my daughter until 3 o'clock in the morning and had a life-changing transformation in our conversation. One day I was coming home, and that day I decided, I was telling my wife, I was coming home and I was wearing, you know, I go to the community center to serve as a counselor. I wear, you know, counselor's hat. When I wear a counselor hat, no one can bother me. Anybody, anything tell me, and I say, okay. Wow, you must be really hurting, and I can empathize, sympathize, do all that. But when it comes to my wife, I couldn't do it. Isn't that strange? As soon as my wife brings up, 20 years ago, why talk about 20 years ago? You know what I mean? I have no patience when it comes to my wife. So that night I was coming home, Lord said, I was about to take up my counselor's hat as I come home. I said, no, keep wearing that hat. wear that hat for your wife. So I came in. My wife is a very genuine lady. She came to me and said, what did you say that day?
All I knew is that, I had a lot of resentment toward my husband. Doing ministry is not easy. Ministry takes over your life, even your personal life. And I was very hurt because I always felt like a family was number 2. Church was number 1. And even when my kids were all sick throwing up, and and they had the flu, he'd worry as soon as 5, I'm going to church. I said, what about me? He goes, I'll be back. He's like, I felt like I lost my husband to the church. So even when I got sick, all these things and feelings were in my heart. It was eating me away. And it wasn't just that, I was exhausted. It was just so many things were happening in my life that I was sick for 5 years. But I couldn't tell my husband because every time I tried to bring the past, he said, "No, stop, I don't want to hear about it." And he would tell me, I'm such a good husband, you're so lucky, you have me, So I could never, so that day though, I felt like, God, I really want to get well, but I can't get well until I need to just talk it out with my husband. I've been burying it inside. I have to talk it out. So finally when he says, I said, honey, I really, really have to talk to you tonight.
Yeah, when she said that, I knew that I had to stay up. And that night I had to bear the cross, talking to her. That night I was wearing a counselor's hat. So one thing I did decide in my heart, this is what a man needs to want. If you were to love and be affectionate to your wife, you need to listen to her without hindering her, without stopping her, without blocking her from saying further. Okay? A lot of times there's a traffic jam. Whenever she tries to tell you something, we talked about that. Why do you bring that up again? How come you don't forget? And and those things. Even God forget things, And then we bring in wrong theology and all that. And so I said, I was about to do that, but I said, you know what? Tonight I'm going to listen to her until the end. Even if it takes 4 or 5 hours. And that night she talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. Something strange happened. It used to be that I would be bothered. And then I would be like, when she's going to end? Lord, please help her. Jesus comes soon, But then that night, that night, Holy Spirit was allowing me. That's why restoring relationship between husband and wife and between family members and so forth, it is a spiritual pursuit. It is something that Holy Spirit does in our lives. So what I came to realize was that as I was listening to her, the more I listened to her, the more I found myself heart to heart with her. First time in my life, I was able to understand her agony, her trauma, her pain, her loneliness. First time in my life. Not in a book, but from heart to heart. You know what I mean? And then, when she said that, she finished. Instead of like jumping in and here's what I have to tell you. No, I didn't do that. If your wife tells you that it's been miserable for her to live with you, it's not your time to tell him, do you want to know the truth? It's not the time. So instead I said, Joe, if you have any more things to say, please tell me more. I even gave her more time to talk. And then she said, no, this is it. I said it all. And then there was a quietness, there was a heart-to-heart joining. First time in my life, I joined in her heart. And then tears were coming out of my eyes as I was holding her. And this is what I said in Korean. This is something that you don't see in Korean movie. I will say it in Korean because it's original. And I will translate it into English. I wish I could say it in Malay or Chinese. Malay and Chinese words are powerful, but I can't do that as of yet. And I said, her name is Jewel. Jewel. 아빠도 좋은데 죽지 마. You know? Guess what I said? If you understood Korean. By the way, Korean's going to be heavenly language anyway. That's just kidding. And I said in English, he said, Jewel, it's okay to be sick. It's okay to remain in sickness forever. But don't just die. Don't die on me. Don't die on me. And the tears were coming down, tears were coming down. And then guess what? She got really bad. When I gave her the permission to remain sick, she got bad. Is that interesting? When I tried to help her to get better, she was not getting better. But when I allowed her to remain sick, she got better. She got so better that our church put on a softball game, and then they gave her a ball, and she hit like almost home run, and she was running, and she fell down, and then sprained her ankle again. And then she became bedridden. And I said, oh, I have to serve her again. But here is the key. While I need to serve her with a pure heart, while I need to serve her with everything I've got, I need to serve her with joy and privilege in my heart. It's impossible for me to do. And so she got sprained ankle. So what do Seventh-day Adventists do when you have a sprained ankle? Charcoal patch, right? We apply charcoal on everything. Acne, charcoal, right? Stomachache, charcoal, right? Headache, charcoal, right? Cleansing, charcoal. The charcoal on everything. And so I remember charcoal. So first time I went in, and I got the charcoal powder, which was never used. And I put waters, and it was messy, man. Really messy. I made quite a bit, and I looked at myself in the mirror. I was like, someone came out of mine. Except my nose, everything else black. And then I applied charcoal on her. And the next day she needed change. So since I already made quite a bit, so I cut some of them off. And then went right back and tried to put her on charcoal. And then she stopped me. And do you remember what you said?
How come you got the charcoal? It's charcoal. Yeah. No, he brought it right away, put it on me. I go, how come you brought it so fast?
I said, I already made quite a bit because I knew that you would need it for at least a week.
Oh no. I heard that charcoal, you have to make it fresh right away.
I don't mean to sound like, okay, I'm doing it for fun, but I don't mean to say that my wife is a very difficult person. You know? And we came to realize that we both can be difficult for each other, but that moment I came to realize that I have two choices. One choice is that, you know what? Be thankful for what you got, live with it. May God bless you. Or, okay, let me go down, make another one. To do that, you gotta bear the cross. Cross, all the way going down. Do you know that every moment of your life you have a choice to make? Like when this Gary Small was talking about him, he came back from work, he came back from long, cold winter Michigan weather. Michigan weather is so cold, it's colder than Korea. So cold, you guys have no idea. Like Malaysians, no idea how cold we have to deal with. Like in Michigan, it gets so cold, cars stop running. So cold, and then your nose like frozen. Your eyes stop moving, you know? It gets so cold. And so you go there, and then, you know, you come into your bedroom. Many of them don't have like electric blanket, you know? The electricity is very expensive. So you go into your bed and warming up your bed, right? Sometimes I love my wife so much that I go to her side, warm her bed. And then I come to my side. But that night, Gary Smalley was warming up his own bed. It was so cold because he was out of home so many days, so he got really cold, right? So he was just snuggling in and warming up a little bit, and then he was starting to really feel snuggled in and felt like sleeping. And then he was in and out of sleep. You know how you experience in and out of sleep, ready to go in and out, heaven and earth, you know? And then your wife calls you. Smalley, Gary Smalley's wife called him next to him and said, "Honey, did you remember to turn off all the lights downstairs?" And right on that moment, you have a choice to make, right? Either you're going to be kidding me. I mean, I've been away from home. I'm just dead tired. Can you just, one day, you go down and turn off that light? Or what? Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, I forgot. You come out of your bed, taking up your cross, all the way downstairs. And then you turn up the light, and then taking up the cross all the way up. And then you go into your bed, and now you're ready to sleep. And then your wife started to tell you something, and now you're afraid that she might tell me something else. But she tells you, Gary Smalley's wife told him, "Honey, when you bear the cross, this kind of miracle happens." She goes, "Honey, I'm so sorry for letting you go down. I'm so selfish. I'm so immature. For the rest of our lives together, I'm going to turn off all the lights. Upstairs, downstairs, even basement." And to that, Gary Smalley said, "No. I enjoy turning off all the lights." Is it possible? It's only possible when our hearts are touched and be transformed by the power of God's love. Amen? Amen. If I have just meetings with just couples, I can talk about sexuality, but since we have younger children here, I don't want to scare them, or I don't want to give them some ideas to practice or whatever. So we're going to skip, okay? Love your wife just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Wow. Man's calling for love is higher calling than woman's calling for respect. It's higher calling because man needs to die to self to make that happen. Here's a very powerful chart that I would like to introduce to you. What happened when man dies? Adam died, literally, right? God performed the first anesthesiology on Adam. What happened? Eve was born. Whoa. Do you know that Eve was born out of Adam as a result of his death? And then second Adam, sorry, it's in Korean, huh? Yeah, no wonder you can all read it, right? Sorry. My syllabus is it's in Korean, English, and all that stuff. So, second Adam came and died on the cross, and then church was born. When man dies to self, it's called self-denying love, self-sacrificing love. When man dies to self, pure woman was born. You see? When man dies, new life gets to be born. And that's why men are called to serve the family as servant leaders. Okay? What happened when woman received love? Okay, my wife will help us to learn those things. What happens when they receive love? What happens when they do not receive love?
When we receive love, we become very strong. That's why we can have one child. And we tell ourselves we're not going to have any more kids. Then we have the second one and the third one. woman, when we receive love, we become very, very strong.
Okay. And then, how come the Bible says women are weaker vessels? When woman is loved, they become strong, right? Stronger than anything, right? And by the way, even if man looks like as if men are stronger than women, right? Yeah, we're exerting our power. We can lift up heavy stuff. I mean, except some occasion, some women can lift more heavy things than men. So man looks stronger than woman, and yet how come women generally live longer than men? I don't get that. And that's why in terms of our gene, woman has a stronger gene. Okay? Yeah, they have much better survival rate than men. When woman's gene and man's gene, when they fight, when the sperms fight for the goal, woman outlive the man. Man dies along the way. They die, and the woman, they keep on going. But how come the Bible says women are weaker vessels? This is important. I went to Africa. It's a funny thing. I went to Africa. I gave a lecture on this whole family dynamics and all that. And then one African man came out, gave me an African answer toward why women are called to be weaker vessels in the Bible. He said, Pastor, Doctor, I learned the reason why women are weaker vessels is because woman talks twice more than men, and therefore they use up all their energy, they become weak. So I said, Elder, that's totally an African version of it. So that was funny. But women are called to be weaker vessels is because while they are so precious, like China teacher, China vessel, while they are so precious, they are fragile enough to be easily broken. You see, he tells us they're weaker vessels because they're precious, and tells us they're weaker vessels because they can easily be broken. And that's why, if I order my wife around, if I tell her what to do, if I tell her, don't feel that way, you should not think that way, you're like, saying all that stuff, then what happens? I am breaking her down to pieces. When I break her down to pieces, what happens? She's making all this like crashing sound, and then all of those crashing sound of a vessel is expressed in the form of what? Nagging. When a woman is nagging and complaining and all that, it is a crashing sound of a vessel, And so that's how we need to understand, and that's how we need to handle with care. What happens when a woman is not loved? Okay.
When we are not loved, we become weak. W-E-A-K. It sucks the energy out of us. And not only that, it makes us wicked.
Did you get that?
Wicked. There was a woman, the husband cheated on her, but she lived with him. And then he came back to her. And when people asked her, are you going to divorce him? She said, no. Why should I divorce him? I will make his life miserable till the end. And so she ordered him around. He became servant in the house. Do this, do that. She served him cold rice. And she said, I will make you miserable and pay. So women, when we do not receive the love, we become very wicked.
So which one comes first? Weakness or wickedness? Those women are wicked and they become weak, or they become weak and they become wicked in the end? Weakness. So weakness leads to wickedness. And then when I went to Africa, when missionaries came, all the retired pastors came and elders came, all of these really great saints came from the United States to serve in Africa. But I came to realize that when they get hungry, they become angry. So next morning I preach the sermon, hungry become angry. You know? So when you become weak, you become weakened. And that's why I cannot emphasize this enough. That while man seems to be strong, woman can be so strong when they are loved. And yet, for woman to remain strong, woman needs to receive lots of nutrients. Number one nutrient is called affection. We're going to talk detail. Affection. Woman needs to receive affection in order for them to be strong. And then secondly, what I came to realize is that women need a lot of nutrients, even physical nutrients. You know what I mean? Woman needs more than 40 different hormones in their body because they manufacture, human beings. So their body is created to be so complicated. And that's why woman's body needs a lot of nutrients. As you grow older and having kids, that's why some woman, as a result of having so many kids, and then leaving out all the calcium to their kids, and sharing all their calcium to their kids, their bone become what? Hollowed. That's why woman needs to receive a lot of nutrients as they continue to grow older in their lives. Protein is an important part of the nutrients they need. Vitamin B12 and all of those things, calcium and all of those things. And that's why, woman needs to be nurtured in one way or the other in order for them to remain vibrant, okay? And we're going to talk more about that. And that's why when woman does not receive the kind of nutrients that they need, emotionally and physically and spiritually, they become weak and they become resentful. Last of the place, if there's one place where we don't want our woman to be, I don't want my wife to be in a place of resentment at the end of her life. And that's the worst kind of place to be. I don't want your life to be in a place of resentment, at the twilight of your life. And therefore, God wants us to be able to meet our needs in such a way that we would be happy and joyous. Here's the case where Samson's wife threw herself on him, sobbing, "You hate me. You've given my people a riddle, but you haven't told me the answer." So you can tell that Samson's wife was not sure about his love for her. And then the story goes on and on. Let's briefly talk about how to agape your wife, okay? This is very important for men to love. Okay, please write them down, how to love your wife, because, it's not just words, but through actions, through your character. That's how you show your love.
Is to express affection through words and through action. Remember, my husband said women, we are very auditorial, so we need to hear not only words, but then when your words carry through action, that really shows that what you say and what you do are one. That's what makes men very powerful. Express your appreciation in daily routines of life. You know that cooking, cleaning, all these routines of life is a mundane thing. But then when men express his appreciation for what you do, that really gives a little spice to life. Celebrate birthdays and anniversaries. I think we need to do that. Celebrate each other and celebrate the anniversaries and birthday. There was a pastor long time ago when life was very, very hard and difficult. He remembered it was his wife's birthday, but they were struggling very, very financially. So he saw the flower and he was going to buy the flower, but then he said, "You know what, I think I better buy a sack of potato. That will go longer. I mean, we can eat that." So he brought her on her birthday a sack of potato versus a flower. So I don't know if any women would like to receive receive a sack of potato for their birthday? Something functional?
Sack of, mean-looking potatoes, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, big and humongous, potatoes. And then, of course, he had to pay for the flour for the rest of her life, and because every birthday come around, and she would remember being traumatized by receiving potato. And then I hope that none of you believe that, even Jesus didn't have a birthday. Why should you have a birthday? And that's really not true. Okay. Be considerate of her needs before yours. This is really, really interesting. And that's why the Bible tells us man needs to bear the cross, and man needs to die to selfish self, to love. And there was a man who is in Canada. He's a short guy, but he has so much love to his wife. His wife is a tall lady, and so tall and small, they don't look together size-wise, But then when I look at them, there is so much love. So I asked her, hey, what's the reason for, his love for you? How does he love you? And guess what she answered?
They work in a dry cleaning, and she said, I feel my husband's love every time I eat lunch. So we asked her, what do you mean? Because we do dry cleaning, someone always has to be in the front counter. But every time lunchtime comes around, he always asks me to eat first. So I say, no, honey, you eat first today, because I eat first all the time. He goes, no, you eat first. So even though she's in the back eating lunch, she always feels her husband's love, because before his needs, he's always putting her needs first. So that's how she feels his love.
Okay, so from now on in Sabbath Church, a woman is going to eat first, and if we have leftover, then man get a chance to eat, right? Okay. And then number 6, go on a regular date to bond and to dialogue. This is important. How many of you, those who are married, have a date at least once a week? Oh, maybe I'm getting you to be in trouble. Okay, even if not once a week, maybe every, once for 2 weeks, or once for at least 1 week or 2 weeks. You got to have a date with each other, especially when you live in Sabah. I came all the way to Sabah to enjoy beach and all that. How many of you guys go to the beach? You don't go to the beach anymore. You guys are beached out, huh? When I came to Malaysia, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I templed out. You know what I mean? I saw so many temples. I said, no more temple, please. Incense and all that. You know what I mean? And so sometimes you live in a wonderful place, very romantic place. I heard that Malaysian sunset in Sabah is number 3 in the whole world. And then how many of you go and watch the sunset? You feel like, I can go there anytime, right? No. Go out and date your wife, once a week, at least once a week. Okay? Do that. If you don't do that, I'm not going to come back here again.
I'd like to just say something on that dating. You have to plan. Nothing happens, randomly. You have to talk, you have to plan, you have to intentionally take time for each other.
My wife and I, we take Monday off. So Monday, don't bother me, don't call me. I'm not going to answer. My whole church knows. I go out on a date with my wife. Okay, I spend time with her, talk to her once a week. We need that. And then be helpful rather than just rushing. This is important. I feel like my wife put this in.
No, you put this in to remind yourself.
Oh, okay, I did.
Yeah. He wrote this in because on Saturday he gets dressed and he sits in the car and he's just waiting for me. And I'm running around in the kitchen like there's so many potluck stuff, big dishes to take and all this stuff, and he's just sitting in the car waiting. So I said, honey, I need your help.
Not always, but sometimes.
So he's wonderful.
Yeah, sometimes I forget that so many things we need to bring in. I help her to bring things in, and then I didn't realize there were more things to bring in.
Know when to make it restful by knowing the pace of the family.
This is important.
I think this was very important for my sanity because my husband, when you do the color code, you will know he's yellow, and yellow has tremendous energy. Ever since I married him, I feel like I'm in the treadmill trying to keep up with him. He has so much energy. And so for him to make it restful instead of going like 300 miles an hour is very important. That showed me that, that's my love language, quality time and being restful.
And then for the couples, especially when your wife goes through the period and all that, making it really tough and difficult for her, you need to make a note on your calendar. There's a special time for her, and you need to pay attention not to make it crowded, because without knowing that, Satan works in such a way that somehow we would make it so crazy, busier than ever, when we are most tired. When we become weak, we become what? We can pretty wicked sometimes, right? And we don't want to go there, okay? So rhythm is very important. Hold hands to pray, so that no one can hit. No, just kidding. Hold hands to pray every night. Every night, because even if you don't feel like praying, you fought a big fight and you're like huffing and puffing, and then, oh Lord, please, deal with that lady next door, And then when you do that, your wife calls you, honey, can we pray? And then that's the moment you have a choice between the two. One is like, you need more prayer, just pray. Or even if you don't feel like praying, you turn around, okay, let's pray. And then a lot of times in our ministry, in our practices, when we, by faith, we learn to pray, and then all of those trivial feelings will go away, and then we end up saying, why did we do that? And then we end up like saying, I'm sorry, and then making up.
Prayer is an important part of holding the marriage together. Fulfill emotional and intimate needs. This is also going along with dating. It doesn't happen. Sometimes you have to block time out. How are we going to spend time with each other? It is very important. Instead of life trying to take over your life, you need to plan and set time so that you make time for each other. You need time to be husband and wife, even though you have children. We need that time apart to nurture. And actually our children are most happiest when their parents get along. They just want, number one, kids want to see their parents happy. That's all they really want. And when the love cup overflows to them, then they're really happy. So the best gift you can give to your children is to be happy as husband and wife.
And then understanding here is when things are rough. Instead of trying to fix them, instead of trying to giving them some solution, just give them understanding ears, listen to them, and become heart to heart. Take time to laugh and enjoy each other. Really important. How many of you believe in humor? How many of you believe in humor? Okay. Humor in marriage, humor in family life is so important. You know what's so funny? Is that when we are with our friends, we become so funny and fun-loving. As soon as you're with your spouse or your kid, you become very very serious, right? And then you tell kids Koreans are so funny. When you go to a Korean restaurant, you watch them. It used to be we would go to a restaurant, and then I would try to say something, and then my father was like, no, eat. Don't say eat. Because he said, you're going to go to the army, and you need to finish eating 5 minutes. He used to tell me. So having love from my father, whenever we get together, we go to the restaurant, my son tried to talk, he's very talkative, and my girls are like, talk. Eat. I end up doing the same thing that my father taught me to do. It's so funny. And that's why, we need to learn to enjoy life. Funny thing was, it was not that funny. When my father retired, after showing me how to lead a Christian life so seriously, my father, with a serious look on his face, after retiring, he came to me and said, "Son, I have some serious things to tell you." So I became really serious. I was already serious with my dad, right? And then my dad came and serious look and he said, "Son, this is very serious. Please, don't be serious, okay?" I got really confused. And all my life, he taught me how to lead a serious Christian life. And then all of a sudden, my father told me not to take it serious. I was like, almost had a really like breakdown, you know? And it was so funny. And yet, I'm glad that my father taught me not to be so serious, because before he became a Christian, he was such a fun-loving and joyous and happy-go guy. And after he became a Christian, took on another joy, but he became so serious. He would put his shoes like this, he would take off, he was just perfectionistic in everything that he did. And I felt really choked up, feeling like, no, in front of my father, I have no room to breathe. I can't do this, I can't do whatever. I became really choked up. And then he told me not to take it serious. And then I took it really serious. And guess what I did? I said, you know what? I'm going to be funny. I'm going to be joyous. I'm going to be humorous. And since the line of work that I was doing was a pastoral work and youth pastor, so I had to be funny. No kids want to come and listen to a serious talk, right? Let's talk about Jesus, Open the Bible, And somebody didn't bring the Bible, Who is your father? You can't do that, right? You can't do that. And so I had to be funny. And then one day I was talking, and then I mispronounced things. I'm mispronouncing that, like first 2 years of my working as a pastor. And at that time my English wasn't that great. And then, so I'm mispronouncing. I ended up saying, I meant to say veggie burger, but I ended up saying veggie booger. You know what booger is, right? Booger is like a leftover stuff that comes out, right? Of course, if you're a vegetarian, veggie booger comes out, right? Anyway, at the time, I didn't know what booger was. I ended up saying veggie booger. The kids were laughing. These girls were like rolling down, laughing crazy. Veggie booger, veggie booger. I felt so offended. I felt like dying. I felt so disrespectful. So I was coming home and I was like huffing and puffing, like, what's wrong? I said, you know what? This is the end of my pastoral career. I'm not going to do youth ministry anymore. I felt so offended. Okay? What happened? He said, I just said veggie burger. As soon as I mentioned the word veggie burger, my wife was rolling down and laughing crazy. I said, I can withstand people laughing at me, but not you. And my wife goes, honey, do you know what booger is? And she talked. And then I laughed crazy. I went to church next Sabbath. When you're able to laugh with yourself, that's really healthy. And I went to church. And then that Sabbath, I said, okay, you guys, all sinners out there, I didn't say that. I said, you guys laughed at me last weekend, right? But from now on, laugh with me. Whenever I'm mispronouncing things like veggie booger, laugh with me. But you will never come to a place where you can speak Korean like the way I do. 나처럼 한국말 못한단 말이야, 너희들 말이야. And I said that, whoa, this guy can speak Korean really fast. 그렇지, 나 얼마나 빨리 얘기하는 They're like, wow. And then I said, no matter how much I try, I will never be able to speak English like you guys. The butter tongue sound. I can never speak like you guys. So I gotta respect you. You gotta respect me for who I am. And they were like, cool, Pastor. That's a cool deal. After that, they were hugging me, they were giving me five, and they were like crazy. My ministry at Sdakkcityengchrch, first time youth ministry in English, was a success because we ended up staying there for 6 years. And then God gave me love for young people. And guess what? I thought I was going to leave ministry because people are laughing at me for vegetable. And even to this day, I'm still doing youth ministry, English ministry, college ministry, campus ministry, young adult ministry, and it's been 31 years. Amen? Amen. Because what? God allowed me to enjoy who I am with my weaknesses, with my shortcomings, the way I am, and make it fun. Make fun out of it. So every day, you know what I struggle with? How could I make this thing? How could I preach this funny? How could I make it funny? How could I make it creative? You know? And there was one guy in America, his name is Tony Campolo, funny Italian guy. He's no longer doing ministry. He might still do ministry, but he's funny guy. He said, somebody asked me, how did you develop humor? He said, whenever he comes home, on the way home, he would have to struggle. Which kind of joke, what joke he would say, what funny thing he would say to make everyone laugh at home. Because every night his father made it as a condition that everyone has to say something funny before dinner is offered. So this Tony Campolo grew up in a family, coming home, pulling his hair, trying to figure out what to say, and then in doing so, he lost all his hair. Funny, isn't it? Funny. You look at life, you look at people. Somebody asked me, how come, Dr. Pastor, you've been with people, you've been dealing with like problems with people for the past 25 years? How do you do that? Is it boring? Is it just like sickening? I said, you know what? People are genuinely hilariously funny. Especially when people are stupid. And when people are insisting on their stupidity. Oh man, that's so funny. I think angels can get a kick out of like you being so stubborn in your stupidity. And you're like, I'm going to go on my way, even if it's the wrong way. I'm going to keep on going, even if the gas runs out. I'm going to keep on going. Angels are like, oh man, I better perform a miracle or something. You know, we human beings are so funny. It's the way you look at life. If you look at life positively that way, you'll find life worth living. You look at your husband, this man is a source of all of my problems. Before I met this man, I was the happiest in my life. As soon as I met this man, I went down to I went down to hell, coming in and out of hell every day. But you need to look at this man differently. Why in the world would this man act the way he does? Maybe he doesn't feel respect. We need to know how to get to the heart of your man and then your woman. Okay? Take time to laugh and enjoy each other. You know what? When we are with our friends, we become so funny and hilarious. As soon as we're with our wives, we try to control. We try to manipulate. We try to not make your emotion available to them. And we end up fighting games with our spouse. Right? And it's time for us to let go and be able to enjoy. Let's move on, talk about man's need for respect, okay? Here we go. How to respect your man. Number one, don't try to change first. Man is a species. Heaven is still researching on man, even to this day, because man has a tendency, the more you try to change your man, the more he reaches changing. But somehow women think that they've been trying to change their man for the past 30 years, and they feel like if they try one more time, he might change. No. If it hasn't changed for the past 30 years, it's not going to change with the same tactic that uses. So don't try to change man. Stop nagging and giving advices. Accept him for who he is. This is important. You know what? One man came to me and said, Pastor, my wife loves me. Maybe she loves me too much. And then he added, And then he added, she loves me too much, but she doesn't like me. For a man to be liked is what it means to be respected. I enjoy the most when my wife enjoys me the way I am. Appreciating small things, okay? One time, funny thing happened even with my relationship with my wife. When my wife especially gave me a note by saying that, honey, when you stop by the grocery store, make sure you buy this, and she gave me a list. And then on the way there, somehow I lost that list. But still, we're so insistent. Instead of calling her, I go there, led by the Spirit. Lord, lead me to the stuff that my wife asking me to buy. And then I buy things. Oh yeah. She wanted me to buy banana. Yes, banana. And then I buy banana, and then I brought it home. And then you know what? I bought all the other stuff except the things that she asked me to buy. Right? Even when things like that. Learn to appreciate. Learn to appreciate. Learn to, appreciate small things. Do not become anger-based or bitter. I told you about. Nurture, care, and improve self without being dependent. This is important. When your husband is everything for you, then what if something happened to you? And that's why it's important for you to have your own self, learning to be independent. Don't put down in front of children. This is important. And on this point, don't put down in front of children. That's so important. Because if you put down your husband in front of children, then your children are picking up what disrespect really is. And then secondly, a lot of women, I noticed, they end up talking bad about their husband in front of other people. As soon as they meet somebody, they end up talking about their husband. They end up talking him down and all that. In Korean saying, we consider them as really immature people, but I realized that if you're a woman, if you're a wife, you end up talking about your husband in front of anybody you meet, then it is like the pot, boiling pot, whose lid is opening up like this. You know what I mean? You're already boiled hot. And therefore, you have no way of controlling yourself. If you come to that point where you cannot help but talking about your husband in front of other people, then you need counseling. You really need counseling. Otherwise, you're making a fool out of yourself and your husband, everybody else, and your children will grow up, learning disrespect and resentment. Leave ultimate decision to him, especially when divided. Important. Increase in knowledge and wisdom. I encourage women to read books. Sometimes in the course of women's life, they stop reading books. It's important to read books, to nurture yourself. Beautify self at home. Enjoy leading him in intimate relationship as well. So let's just stop here, and then we're going to move on to talk about the color codes, which is going to be very beneficial to all of us. And so what we will do, we will pass them out to everybody. We do that, right? Yeah, we'll pass them out to everybody, and then we will take a 5-minute break. But while we take break, people will take the test. But as you take the test, please listen to what my wife has to say about the instructions.
This is one page, 16 questions. Very simple, but very good test that's going to help you determine what your color code is. There is 4 colors, and each of them, like number 1, has 4 things. Pick the best one that represents you when you were as a child. Okay, so we're trying to figure out what your natural personality was when you were little. Because as we get older, we adapt other personalities because of circumstances, because of jobs or other things. But we're trying to determine what is your natural color when you were born. So from your earliest memories, please pick the best one And then on the bottom of the page, you will see A, B, C, and D. Just add up your A's, B's, and C's, and D's. You will see. If you have any other question, you can raise your hand. But pick the best one from your earliest childhood memories, and then total it.
I didn't.
We'll give you time up to 4:45. So 10 minutes. So within those 10 minutes, you go to restroom. Okay, feel free to do that.
그 동영이 더